Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Taking Over. Yes, I'm here by myself again tonight. Ed isn't feeling that great, so I wanted him to have the moment to rest. So, sorry, Ed. Hopefully, we'll see you again next week. But before I start, I want to thank Daphne for stopping by. Thank you for coming in here and spending your night with me, talking here about NXT. And Bobby, thank you, Bobby. I saw that you were posting or uploading a couple movie reviews, so check them out on the OLE YouTube channel if you haven't yet. Yeah, here to talk about NXT. So I'm just gonna go on over and start from the beginning here. When the show started, we have a video package. Hey, Parrish. A video package about our Vengeance Day and everything that happened during the event. If you haven't seen it, we have our post show with Victor Tyler Perry that's on the YouTube, all the YouTube as well. If you haven't checked it out, I encourage you to do so. It was very great conversation with him, and we're very grateful that he took the time out of his weekend to spend it with us watching NXT and talking about it. But yeah, we started the show with Bailey arriving to the arena and right after the Vengeance Day promo. And then after that we start with none other than Trick Bello in their promo. I hope I didn't miss any of this because I had some issues with my stream. Hopefully I don't I have all the details here. But I love how like they mentioned about everything that happened with Apollo and talking about turning him into a Stevie Wonder, and we had a little bits and pieces of Carmelo talking about his catchphrases, talking about the Melo is money because of the situation here, yeah, on Twitter with Carmela about Melo is money. So I love how they brought that up here in this promo as well. One of the points that I really enjoyed was when they said like Apollo, he had the right vision, but the right vision was with the wrong one. And we have none other than JD McDonough interrupting Mello with after this promo, and it's like talking about it's like you. Well, before that happened, he talked about having put one more band in his T-shirt, talking about Braun Breaker, and that is his destiny. And that's when JD comes in, and he tells Carmelo that he's not ready to be the face of the brand and the face of NXT. And he said, "You used to having the VIP treatment, but I send people to the emergency room." And I love that one of my favorite lines when he told him, "Hello, partner." When says call 911, tell them that you're coming ahead of time. So they set up Carmelo versus JD for later on tonight. After this, we had a celebration a celebration for Fallon and Kiana, but it started with Fallon discussing with Kiana the victories, like, "Oh, you cheated," and then Kiana said, "Well, the referee didn't see me, so he was like, what do you want to do? Hand back the titles after we won them?" Which is exactly what I was thinking she would do after she noticed that. But she said, if anything, give them a rematch. Hey, Mighty Joe, nice to have you around here. But yeah, they come in the room and Fallon tells Kiana, I want to talk about the phone call that you had last weekend. So if anything, they had a back and forth about it. She's like, let's go tell him right now. Let's go tell Brooks about your phone call. And when they turn on the lights to the room, they go in. It's a surprise party that the guys had set up for them after winning the titles. But we had several instances tonight that Fallon's trying to tell Brooks what happened, and she isn't able to, unfortunately. Right after this, we go to Soul versus Zoe. I feel like even though I like the match itself, but it just felt short to me tonight. At least I didn't like that aspect of it. But before we get to the start of the match, we had, as you know, Ed calls it a. But first, we had a video showing of Grayson interrupting HBK at the media call and talking about how he's suspended for a whole week. Before we move on to Zoe and Soul. Yeah, I like the back and forth they have with these two. It definitely has been showing. It's been a great showcasing for Soul Roka lately, which I've been enjoying the way she's been improving in just a few amount of months here in NXT. I love the part that she's in the outside with Zoe and she used a little split to avoid Zoe coming after her. The only thing I wasn't sure here is like I wasn't sure who was gonna win really, is I feel like Zoe being the veteran, but also Soul has had a great, great amount of matches so far and great victories here. So I thought that would have been, a moment for that too. I thank you, Barry, for stopping by. And as he's saying, Soul Ruka has great potential, just reached ring time. Going to be a big name. Yeah, I feel like definitely she's already making big waves as it is. So I think just keep up with that momentum, which I thought that was going to happen. So I wasn't expecting her to lose it. But I like though that after the match happens and match ends, we had Zoe attacking her, but Zoe goes back to her. So we still have that back and forth between them of like nobody's one up in the other one. So I like that aspect of it. Right after this, we had Double Keto arriving, and they mentioned about him turning on Apollo at Vengeance Day. And this time again, we go back to the celebration that Fallon and Kiana had, and Pretty Deadly arrives. They're like dressed like their clothes are dirty and haven't. Everybody mentions how they look like they haven't slept. And it's like, yeah, we haven't slept since Vengeance Day because we lost the tag titles. Um, and then Chase U shows up there. So they're like, it's because of you that we didn't win. And he's like, with us, it's like, we're not supposed to be a team. We're all supposed to go against each other. And that was part of the match itself. But I like that aspect of like they have a goal and they haven't been able to reach it. So it's affecting them now. And they haven't been sleeping or like had motivation for this at the moment. And then right after this, they start with Davokado versus Dante Chen. I feel bad because Dante Chen is definitely not who I expected to go against Davokado tonight. But he double stops with a lot of chops to Dante. They posted pictures of his chest after the match. It definitely looked nasty. But I like how Dante had a chance to like fight back for a couple minutes. It wasn't just like Davokado having to take control over everything that he did. But yeah, Dante he fought back, so he gave him a big boo and he brought him down to one knee. But it wasn't long after that Daba just wins the match. And after the match, he's asked about the attack on Apollo, and he said Apollo's knows he knows what he did. So we definitely have that mystery of we don't know exactly what he did, uh, but we'll probably find out sooner or later. Yeah, as Barry is saying, we saw those pictures not good. Yeah, I saw the pictures too on the Twitter account. Just like, yeah, they sounded really loud too. Um, right after this, we have a little video package talk about in the sheer and the Creeds happening last week. And they said that they're going to be draped in gold. They want to be draped in gold as the group. After this, we had Diamond Mine and Medical, all four of them. And we had Isla and Alba arriving. And I like how Isla just puts a spotlight on Tatum, of all people. And she tells her, "You've been looking in the parking lot when everything happened with Kiana." And then we have Tatum's explaining herself, and Isla Dawn just says, if somebody was innocent, they would have just said no, like it wasn't me. You shouldn't have done this explanation for it. And the guys are like asking her about it. So this definitely sets up Isla Dawn versus Tatum that's happening a little bit after. We also have an interview with Roxanne talking about her first title defense here at Vengeance Day. So she said, so yeah, and then she was putting pressure on herself to win, but she did it, which was her goal ultimately. And then we have, as we call them, Casey Square interrupting them. Casey Square, and they said it was like, well, they don't feel great because they lost, and Roxanne is still champion. And Roxanne's like, well, it's like I feel bad for you guys that you lost them, but she's like, you'll get them back. It's okay. And then they tell us like our main problem is that we got cheated and nobody's discussing it or talking about it. And they have a back and forth with Roxanne, and then they tell Roxanne she doesn't have any friends here. So she's like, "Well, it's okay. I'll make a phone call. I got friends." So I thought this was the thing that about this segment, though. I wasn't sure if the match was happening tonight or next week. And we got that answer later on later on in the show. So I thought that's interesting. Another match that we were not expecting. I was thinking the tag match would have been the main event. So with the time frame, I was debating that part of it. Then we, as I mentioned, we go back to Isla Dawn versus Tatum. One thing that they pointed out during commentary during this match is that Tatum doesn't have Diamond Man with them. Um, Again, just a short match between the ladies. I feel like it's mostly Isla Dawn in there, but we did get a little bit from Tatum. One of the parts that I enjoyed the most was Isla Dawn giving her with the double knees and going for that pinfall there. And that gun stretch suplex was really well done as well. But yeah, just like it's one of those things like they're showing us how they go as a tag team because after Isla wins, we get Ivy arriving to try to help out um, Tatum because it looks like Isla was going for an attack after the match. So it looks like they're setting up for this tag team match happening sometime soon. JD versus Carmelo is another thing that happened tonight. Again, my interesting match. I love this, like the psychology between it here because as we saw on Vengeance Day, Apollo really focused on Carmelo's ribs, and we had JD go right after and continue on to that story that started at Vengeance Day, and just really go for the ribs. And JD's the kind of person that he pinpoints and he just picks one body part, he just focuses on it. So he did that already with Carmelo, and it shows that like he's continued after what he saw during the match at Vengeance Day. But yeah, this was just interesting to see. There was a part that he had Carmella bouncing on the top rope, which didn't look that great. I felt bad when I watched it. Um, but yeah, it's just like we had Dragunov arriving and it kind of distracted JD. So Melo took the opportunity, he pinned him, and Dragunov just went after a trick outside. And then he went again. It looks like he was going against Carmelo, but Carmelo just talked. It's like, yeah, this is none of my business. And then he went after JD because he's the one that injured him in the first place. So he was a mysterious person that just had arrived a few minutes before the match started. I didn't think they were going to show us right away who it was. I was expecting the reveal to be later on. But yeah, it's just nice to see that JD and Red Dragonov is happening sometime soon again. Another thing that happened that was super interesting. We have Tiffany's trying in her locker room. She's just getting ready. And then Thea tells her, "Oh, I saw the TikTok that you talked about Chase you. Like, why do you, talking about us like this? Because we have our arms open to anybody that wants to come here." And she's like, "Well, I have two words for you." And you know what words they are, as it is. So Tiffany was just surprised that she said them. And she's like, "What are you gonna say? Chase you?" And I thought it was kind of funny the way she went back at her. But for a moment, Tiffany just turns around and she focuses on her makeup again, and Ava Rain just takes Thea away. And I don't know, it just seems like kind of like Tiffany saw it when she turned around. She turned around kind of quickly afterwards. So I was surprised that it looks like I don't know if she just ignored it because she's a heel and doesn't care, but it wouldn't surprise me. That's what happened, to be honest. Um, After this, we had again the celebration with Fallon and Kiana, and we had Brooks and Fallon talking, and he tells us like, "Oh, I have something to tell you," and she's like, "I got something to tell you." He goes, "No, ladies first," and she goes, "No, it's okay, you go first." And they have a back and forth of who goes first, until he tells her, "Well, I have a date with Kiana for Valentine's Day." So when it's her turn to say something, she doesn't want to say it. And right there, and then Kiana arrives. So she's like, "It's okay. I just wanted to say thank you again for setting up the show, the celebration here for us." So she again tried, I think, at least three times tonight to tell him somehow, and she wasn't able to. So it'll be interesting going forward, see how that goes. But yeah, they both started thanking the guys for the celebration itself. Next up after this, very. Does anyone really care about that? Who was on the phone stuff too? I don't know if I really care about it. It's just like, I guess it's one of those things like once they give you that question, I want to know the answer. And like I said I think it was last week or the week beforehand, it could be anybody. Like just because she said I love you doesn't mean it has to be a boyfriend. Like it could be her brother or her dad. You never know. Um, so just like it's one of those things that gets at the same time as Fallon assuming that it's somebody that she likes because she said I love you. Um, but I don't know. At the same time, at this point, who knows? I'm like more. I guess it's just one of those things like it shows a little like a little bit of like back and forth between them right now because they're not necessarily like a usual team like the way Casey Scare was with, that they're best friends. So maybe that's just a way to like bring up an argument between them later on. Who knows? But yeah, I just want to know who the exact guy is, but I really don't care about the rest. But who knows? After this, we had Valentina with Wendy. She had promised her during Vengeance Day that she was going to be there in her corner. And Electra said, "Well, I could be there to help you." And then Wendy said, "It's okay. Like, I'll be in her corner with her." I love how she was doing Valentina's post like this in the entrance as it was happening. Um, but yeah, this was against Lyra. It was a point that Lyra caught Valentina, and Valentina turned her move into a submission, and then Lyra turned it into a suplex bridge. I love that combination. The way it happened is really well done, and how they pointed it out in the commentary too. But we had during the match Electra arriving, and she just throws the brass knuckles to Valentina, who just looks at her and looks at Wendy. And I feel like in the cartoons how you have the devil and the angel on your shoulder. That's what I look at in this situation. And she kept looking at both of them, it's like didn't know whether she should use them or not. Um, but yeah, just I know there was a part where they had a double headbutt too, so that's when she felt like right where Electra had the brass knuckles. But yeah, she gets debating it, but she gets distracted. So Lara takes the opportunity to kick her twice and then going for the pinfall there too. And Electra's like looking at her like it's not my fault. Like I handed you the brass knuckles, you just didn't use them. So I thought that was pretty interesting there too. And having Lyra win again, as we had during Vengeance Day, there was I guess Cora backing out and didn't want to have a match with her. So Lyra said during Vengeance Day that she would do an open challenge, and that's when later on we had Valentina talking about it. And it's like, oh, I'll answer Lyra's challenge. And Wendy said she will be there for her corner. So this was tonight. The next up I really enjoyed it was Wes having his travel day, traveling from Orlando to Charlotte for Vengeance Day. I love seeing his wife being a part of this. I feel like it's not often that we see her like this. So it's nice to see her talking about him and how he's an inspiration and he doesn't even realize it, and how he inspires other people by being North American champion and inspiring to be his best. And one of my favorite parts is when she says that is a boost that he needed, and it's been a help for him in his career, which I love to see with Wes, because I feel he's one of those people like he definitely deserves something like this happening to him. And through the travel day, we get him talking about Dijak and the match itself. But it was nice to see some like a travel day kind of build up to him arriving there. So I would like to see something like this in the future with other people. And as Barry saying, that's a build up more of a more rounded character segment. Yeah, I feel like it's more to his character, which I really enjoyed. Um, yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing something like this later on for somebody else. But after this, we have an interview with him, and Tony and Stacks are there too, and they say how they would like to be compensated for helping him out. And he said, "Well, I didn't ask for you to help me; you were just there, so it's up to you." But he's like, "I'm doing an open challenge next week, so if either one of you wants to answer it, that's between you guys. I'm just letting you know what's happening." Um, After this, we had Odyssey Jones versus Stacks. But before that happened, we had a promo with Tyler Bate. He talks about Grayson and what happened earlier, or what happened after Vengeance Day when he interrupted HBK during the media call. And he said, well, a lot of us wouldn't be here if it wasn't because of Shawn Michaels. So if you're going to disrespect somebody, you can disrespect me. So we have Tyler Bate versus Grayson happening for next week. After this, it's when we go back to Odyssey Jones and Stacks. I felt bad because Stacks is like trying to tackle Odyssey at least twice, and he kind of failed at it there. But Odyssey gave him like a big close on it and took him down pretty quickly there. I like the part towards the end though of like when they're outside and they're coming into the ring, and Stacks just does a nasty DDT towards the beginning there of the ropes to Odyssey, and that's what he just uses as a way to win. So I think that was pretty interesting. We had like Tony being as like a cheerleader back then for him too. So like I said, we had a problem with industry talking about what they did to the Creeds and how they want to be draped in gold there. Next up, we had Chase U versus Pretty Deadly. We have before they get out, Chase and Hudson. They're backstage just saying, "Well, we don't have Thea." And he's like, "It's okay. She'll catch up with us. Don't worry about her. She can like deal with it on her own. She'll be fine." Because they have no idea she got kidnapped by Ava. Um, but before the match happens, we have Roxanne leaving the arena, and this is when we got confirmation that the match is happening next week. Then they asked her about her tag team partner. She said, "Well, Katana, Kaden, I have somebody that's going to team up with it. It'll be you guys versus me and Mako Samura, who's returning next week." So it looks like if they had visa issues between Dragunov and Mako, looks like they got solved as there. He was here tonight, and she's coming in next week. And going back here to the match, it was Chase U, which is pretty deadly. I love how the like little bits and pieces like they still came to the ring. Their entrance was lackluster compared to usual. Like the energy wasn't the same. And even at one point, a kid was like yelling, like, "What's the point? What's the point of this?" And it takes like a while for them to get that confidence in. So they're like running slower. And then they're saying that they haven't showered, and they kind of mentioned that during commentary. It's like, oh, that explains a lot of it. Um, but yeah, I just like they had a good back and forth. It just towards the end, Thea is running. It looks like she was running away from Ava, and Hudson just catches her when she's there, and that distracts Chase enough for Pretty Deadly to come in and get the tag and win. Interesting though, after that is that we get Gallus, as we call in the Eagles Nest, just watching as everything just unfolded. And he going to Perry's comment here. Pretty delicious, just shine everyone when they're in the ring. Such big characters. I feel like today was definitely a tough one because we had Chase U there, who's been pretty over. The Chase U kicks, everybody keeps chanting about them when they happen, so it's not surprising. Um, but yeah, this was very interesting seeing Gallus just like kind of watching for Pretty Deadly as the next contenders for them. After that, we had Gulak and Walker. Oh my gosh, definitely. Pretty Teddy looked like a broke Baron Corbin. That's very true, very accurate. I didn't think about that one, to be honest. We had Gulak and Walker coming in. He's talking to him about the designs for the attires that he sent him, and Gulak says, "Yeah, they were pretty great." And Dempsey is just there beside them, and he tells him, it doesn't matter what he looks like. There's, you're still basically, I'm still gonna beat you. I just hope he doesn't take any shortcuts against you. And he tells him, "Well, you really think he has what it takes to go against Wesley?" He goes, "Well, he has what it takes to go against you, and we want that rematch there." But after that, just Dempsey leaving anyway. And then last up, and the main event technically for tonight, is Ding Dong Hello with Bailey and Toxic Attraction. This was definitely like amazing. I feel like, especially lately, the ladies have been killing it with their facial expressions and their selling and the promos here. So their facial expressions through their entrance, they do the regular entrance, but they're just looking at each other with like side eyes and rolling their eyes, and just like JC's climbing the steps to go into the ring, she's like telling Gigi's like, back out, like let me go in first. And they have a back and forth there on the way to the ring until they get there. They use the door though. Bailey's very happy about it as they knock the door when they come in. But I noticed about this segment is like, more than anything, it has been showing off JC in her promos, which is that's something that I've been talking about a lot lately. She tells her, "Well, you were supposed to be behind me. Like if I had won, you would have sunk into obscurity." So I thought that was pretty interesting. And then she tells her, "You look with your gear. It's like your gear, Gigi. You look like a hobo was banging a chalky doll." And then she says, "Well, I'm surprised you saw it because I thought you were probably staring at the lights. Like usually, yeah, that's what I call the JC train position." But they had a good back and forth, and Bailey just telling them it's better for you, have a partner to go with you, a partner to help you out. There's strength in numbers. And then they said, yeah, like damage control, you've been in control for a while now on the main roster. Like we should think of like you guys as an example. And she goes, yeah, we're in control right now. Like we're on top of it. So it's like, you should be the same. And it just makes the girls like think about what's happening. It's like, yeah, it's like, you're like my sister. It's like, I don't have anybody that makes me like helps me the way you do. And I love how they both like talk about how they have an alienated at the locker room too. So I think this is pretty interesting. Like, yeah, I talked about this person, I call them this and I call them that. So like the locker room isn't really supporting us. So we're the only ones that can support each other at this time, as they mentioned. And they start saying, yeah, let's go for one more run for the tag titles. And they go and say, or maybe for the NXT Women's Championship. And they said, no, let's go for the tag titles. And they're like, yeah, let's do it. And then Bailey's like, let's go to Oak Thames, let's hug it out. Going back to her hugger character, and they hug it out. But they say it was like, maybe we should go for the women's tag team titles. Maybe we should go against Damage Control. And Billy's like, whoa, hold on. Like, I'm trying to help you out here. Doesn't mean you have to go against my girls or anything like that. So they do hug it out in front of the door. But it doesn't take long for JC to throw Gigi into the door for the segment. She throws her at least twice there. So I like how this is just showing JC like a rock star that she is. With her promos and her delivery, his facial expressions, and even her characters. So it just kind of bittersweet thinking about the timeline, because if Mandy would have been here, I feel like this wouldn't be exactly happening right now. So that's kind of weird to think about at the same time. But I feel like, yeah, definitely, for me at least, JC is outshining Gigi in these segments, and she's doing incredible as she is. Um, yeah, so I enjoyed everything that happened tonight. Going here to Barry's comment, that bit where Gigi had her head butt into the door looked nasty. If it looked like it really hurt. Yeah, it looked like it did hurt when it happened. I think for the first one, if I'm not mistaken. And going to Daphne's comments, actually pretty cool. Gigi being the face and now, and JC now being the heel. Sad that they had no more at the same time. Yeah, this is definitely not how I wanted it to go. I feel like I would have preferred it they had gone to the main roster together. They are lacking in women's tag team, so I feel like this would have been a good way for them to go to the main roster now after losing this match, because I feel like they have nothing else for themselves, because they're not going to go for the women's tag team titles at this point in NXT. But yeah, this is basically it for tonight's NXT. I feel like a lot of women's action a lot often tonight too. A lot of the women were portrayed as they always are. I love having the inclusion of Bailey here. They keep pointing out that it's been 3 years since she's been here in NXT. So yeah, I love to see that. It was pretty fun. But before I go, I do want to show everybody the weekly calendar here for for OLE, and show you what we have going on for this week. But unlike me, I'm drinking Red Bull. You definitely need a Rogue Energy to go through everything we have for the week. So if you haven't yet, go check out here the QR code and use the code OLE Pods to get 10% off your order. But before that, let me show what we have going on this week, though. So like I mentioned earlier, if you haven't checked it out yet, go to the YouTube channel. We have a lot going on over there too. I released, I think a week ago at this point, my Scream 6 trailer reaction. Really excited to be chatting about Scream coming up with Bobby soon, next month. But yeah, before I go, just to let you guys know, you can follow me on my Twitter, which is Astrid Pizarro. My Instagram is Astrid Pizarro 20. And like I said, as if you can follow or subscribe to the YouTube channel, there's a lot going on there. And we have so much here on the Twitch as well. So if you can at least follow us so you can get notified when we go live. You'll see me again next week on Taking Over, hopefully with Ed. And then this week I have Making an Impact with Ed as well. So definitely chatting about Impact on Thursday. And I have Ladies Wrestling Showcase on Friday with Mel at 6 p.m. Eastern going live. And then on the weekend, my NXT review goes up on Women's Wrestling Talk website. So check it out if you haven't. So yeah, I want to thank everybody for stopping in tonight, spending time with me to talk about NXT. Hopefully, I have Ed with me next week, and we can chat about what he missed this week because it was a lot going on. Um, but yeah, yes, Mel, we have LWS this week, so I'm really happy about that. But yeah, if you haven't yet, checked it out. And I know Turnbuckle Talk was live before I was with Carl. So if you haven't checked it out, go back to the VOD and watch that as well. And my friend Mel does a lot of great stuff with Andre talking about New Japan and Stardom. So check out their channel as well if you haven't yet. But yeah, I want to thank everybody for spending this time with me and talking about NXT. I'll see you again next week.
Everyone is watching me when I'm coming.